Hey, Mistakes listeners, this is Dave. This week we looked at the amazing world of Gumball, and we actually had quite an enjoyable time kind of investigating and looking at this episode. As always, Todd and I are always amazed by what we see. Oftentimes, it's an unknown world to us, but bear with us. I also have some maintenance or some things I need to correct or some previous episode corrections. I actually had said in a previous episode that Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was airing at 8 p.m. Pacific time, and actually they moved their time back to 9 p.m. So I wanted to make sure that I got that correct. The other thing that I wanted to ensure that I corrected was I had talked about an earthquake in the Ponies episode, and that earthquake I said was actually written up in the New York Times, and the truth is it was written up in the New Yorker. So, again, mistakes on parenting mistakes. I'm totally and amazingly happy that you are listening to us, and keep us up to date on Twitter, and enjoy this episode.
Yes.
Are you there?
That is me. I'm here.
That is really good. I'm very glad you're here. Hey, do you use eye drops?
Do I?
Yeah. You have contacts, don't you?
Occasionally.
You're blind
No.
like I am, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I had LASIK surgery a few years ago.
Oh, you did?
Try to keep up.
Okay. Do you ever use eye drops?
Rarely.
I do all the time. I get better vision. It's a true story.
Well, that's because you're getting older.
No, well, I'm not as old as you.
Yeah, I know, but you're pretty close. You just love to harp on that, don't you?
Well, okay. All right, please forgive me.
It's okay. I'm comfortable with my age.
Please forgive me.
With advanced age comes wisdom.
This is horrible. When is your birthday?
It's in January.
January.
I can't tell you that because we're on the air. This is a public forum.
Oh, dude, if they want to find out,
I know.
when you scratch yourself, right? Like they can find it out on the internet, man. They know everything already.
Yeah, there's nothing they can. I know. I understand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's just jump right into it, right?
Yeah, let's get to our show.
Okay. So this show, The Amazing World of Gumball.
Amazing World of Gumball.
What?
I know. This is interesting. So
it is interesting. I've been kind of looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I have too. I have some thoughts.
This one's easy. This one's easy. Not like some of the other episodes, right?
All right.
Tell me.
So Amazing World of Gumball. We did season 1,
right.
Episode 31, and it's called The Car.
The Car.
Yes. We only watched one episode, and I'm not exactly clear on how this is done. Lots of shows have like 2 episodes in a half-hour slot.
Yep.
This one was one 12-minute episode, so one encapsulated story in 12 minutes. So we just watched that. Okay, so this is a British-American series.
So just time out. So just so you know, a lot of these, there's a lot of cartoons out there just set up for 10 minutes. They're like popcorn shows.
Yes.
Just pop them. You can just watch and go. It's, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what the format or the objective for that format is.
Well,
usually they put 2 of them together, but yeah, it's like 10-minute pops.
Yeah, and some of it has to do with the way Netflix works and social media and, kids watching on the internet and on phones and that sort of thing.
Yep.
I imagine they're probably easier sometimes for kids to sell to parents if they say, oh, this episode's only 12 minutes.
Right.
So, because parents will say, oh, well, you can watch, 2 episodes of a show, thinking that they're 20 minutes apiece. And if they go, oh, this is only 12 minutes. Anyway, so this is a British-American series. It's on the Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Main character is Gumball Watterson, who is a 12-year-old cat.
He is.
He has...
although if they didn't tell you that, you wouldn't know.
Right. The animation's interesting.
It is.
Anyway, he apparently has an adoptive goldfish brother and best friend, Darwin. Mm-hmm. We also saw a sister and parents, and his father is a rabbit.
Right.
Okay, so...
Yep, I got that part.
interesting stuff in and of itself. Gumball
Well,
attends.
let me be clear. Does it matter?
Uh,
I'm not even sure
I don't
it
know.
matters. It's sort
Yeah,
of
I
like
suppose
they're
not.
just throwing characters at you, and it's pretty much what they're presenting, not really what they are.
Okay. Well, yes,
Well, some of the
but
characters, like for example, if I'm watching Winnie the Pooh, he's a very soft bear, or if I'm watching Tigger, he's a springy tiger, right? Like if I'm watching Brer Rabbit or I'm watching Paddington Bear, they're all about who they are.
I suppose.
These I don't even think they could identify who they were. If you were to ask them personally what they were, I don't think they could tell you.
I don't want to go down that road. So Gumball attends middle school, gets into various situations around the fictional city of Elmore.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go.
Right.
Give me your synopsis of this. Initial reactions.
I had to watch it twice because
Really?
I found it so forgettable that by the time I was ready to do like actually think about it, I had to watch it again.
Like, what do you mean forgettable?
There was so much happening on the screen, I wasn't exactly sure what was happening. Like there are so many sight gags, there's so much going on. I was unclear as to what the plot was.
So that's not forgettable. That's too much to process
There you go. That's
in
what
the
it
pacing
was.
of the show.
Well, that's what happens to me. If I'm overwhelmed, I just
You just shut down?
I just shut down.
Okay.
It was so overwhelming. I was like, I don't know what happened to me. It's kind of like I can't even. It's a steak is
Well,
because
because when I hear forgettable, I think about something that is either boring or just has so lacking in content that there's just nothing that sticks to you.
dude, it was mind numbing how much
It
was going
was.
on. It
Yes.
was mind numbing, and at the end of it, I was like, I'm not even sure what happened, and I walked away from it, and then I realized I don't know what happened. So let me tell you, yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth.
I understand. I watched the same episode.
Okay, so I had to watch it twice because I'm like, I'm not sure what happened. But now I know for sure because I watched it again, and I can tell you the positive here is that it is Dennis the Menace, or at least this episode was. Correct?
Dennis the Menace on crack, yes.
Dennis the Menace on crack, but that's exactly what's going on. Part of the show is that it doesn't have a fixed animated style. So there's not this seamless animation that goes through all of it. I kid you not, there are characters that are actually like puppets, some claymation. They use some real backgrounds, like real landscapes,
Right.
Like they're in like a real house, but they're with puppets. But
Yeah.
then there's animated characters on top of the puppets. It's a lot like watching episode 1 for the first time. You're dazzled by all the things that are happening. You come back to it and you're like, uh-oh. Do you remember coming out of Star Wars episode 1 going, wow, that was incredible. I can't believe all the things I saw, but not realizing what happened? That's what happened to me. And that's what happened with
Okay.
Gumball.
That's an interesting comparison, but
No, it's true.
all right.
It's true. I was dazzled. Can't say positively dazzled, but I was dazzled.
Yeah, it is I mean, it's not thrown together, but it's busy
Yes.
in a lot of ways.
In
Both
every way.
Both visually and plot
Right.
standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, interesting sight gags.
Yeah, what did you like about it?
So,
It's okay. It's okay. Do you need to watch it again?
no. Okay, here's the challenge. And this is something that we could hit on in a lot of areas.
Okay.
I can't help but think about what my mother would say when I was younger. When I would want to watch something that had some questionable content and I was trying to sell the positive aspects of it.
Yep.
This is under the general umbrella of being in the world but not of it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, I do.
So
The mission.
my mother
There
would
we
say
go.
things like,
Right.
well, if I cooked you a delicious gourmet meal and then I buried it at the bottom of the trash can, would you dig through all the garbage to get it?
The answer is always yes.
Yes.
In that scenario, you say, "You bet,
Or
Mom."
I'd say, I'm going to try to flip it over and eat from the bottom or something like that. So
Would you try to sell a cartoon like, yeah, I get it? The answer is yes.
so this is one of those things where, as a parent, when you're watching, as an adult, some of the sight gags, some of the jokes are funny. But it's sort of like when your kid does something inappropriate and it's funny, but you're trying to not laugh because you
Right.
don't want them to get the wrong message.
You don't want to encourage them. Correct.
Yeah. Because you watch this stuff through dual lenses.
Oh my gosh.
So I remember, like I remember watching cartoons in college. We're watching cartoons. Why are we watching cartoons in college? Because we're in college.
Right.
And we're embracing the paradox of the college atmosphere, which is we're about to be adults, but we're still embracing our childhood. So we're going to watch cartoons. So we would watch like Animaniacs.
Yep.
Which is totally written for adults. It just is. Kids aren't going to get the bulk of the content on that show.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm watching some of the stuff, and it's funny. It's funny, some of the Dennis the Menace moments. And I don't know if you picked this up. Have you watched The Big Lebowski?
I have. Not one of my favorite movies.
Okay, did you pick up the reference?
Yeah, to the carpet?
No, when he's smashing the car.
No, I did not. You've actually watched this show. I thought the reference was to the carpet.
No.
Because that's how the Lebowski starts. Is that
Well,
his carpet gets ruined.
Ooh.
Right? Because it's centered his entire life, and so they're trying to fix his carpet. That's initially how this thing starts.
Oh, you know what? Okay, maybe I will have to watch it again to see that.
Yeah.
No, there's a scene later on in the. Okay, so
That's
we
hilarious. I'm
talked
telling you,
about
dude, it's all over the place, this show.
I know. We talked about this last time we did a podcast, that whether we should talk about the plot. So the basic plot is that Gumball and Darwin are getting into it with the next door neighbor.
Right.
Mr. and Mrs. Robinson.
Or I would like to say Wilson, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. That's how close it is.
Yeah, I suppose.
Right? It's a gimme. It's a total gimme. Here's Dennis the Menace and his buddies. They're going to go over to Mr. Wilson's house or Mr. Robinson's house. They're interchangeable. But lo and behold, Mr. Robinson's a big old grouch.
Yes.
Right? He's self-centered. He has a very particular way of doing things. But Gumball and friends, they want to help him for some reason.
Right. And so they kick a ball over there. He doesn't want to give it back until they do some chores. They are magically able to complete everything he asks for miraculously.
Right.
Through the magic of animation.
And they're happy. Like, they're happy the entire time. Like, this is the most entertaining thing that's ever happened to them.
They're joyfully cutting his grass with a nail clipper.
Yes.
And then later in the episode, it turns out that his car gets wrecked. And then there's this whole sort of sequence of things where, like, the mom was involved somehow in wrecking the car, and the dad was involved in wrecking the car, and the kids get blamed for it.
Right.
But the scene I was referencing was there's a scene where Mr. Robinson starts smashing the Watterson's car. And he says the exact line from Big Lebowski, minus, because I'm not going to say it here on the show, minus what John Goodman says in the movie, because he uses some naughty language, which we will not say here.
Right. No, I kid you not. I mean,
he says, this is what happens.
Right.
When, and he's smashing this car. That is straight from Big Lebowski. Now, that in and of itself makes me go, all right, the writers of this kid's cartoon, rated Y7, are pulling lines from Big Lebowski.
Yep. No, I would say there are plot points from the Big Lebowski in this cartoon, in this 10-minute cartoon.
This tells you something, does it not?
It's not for kids.
It's not for kids.
That's what it tells me right away.
So we should give this caveat. We give all sorts of caveats. We sprinkle them throughout our podcast. Our general goal most of the time is not to tell parents what to do.
Yep.
You're the parents. It's your kids. You do what you want. And we don't do thumbs up and thumbs down. And we don't do ratings.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll still share our opinions. And yeah, this is not a kid's show.
This is not a kid's show.
It's on the Cartoon Network. It's rated Y7. But it is not appropriate for children. So
It's actually as easy as that.
yeah,
Like, I don't think there's anything more to say other than I loved the fact that you brought up Animaniacs. Perfect. Because that's what Animaniacs was for. It was for college students.
it was.
So once I watched Gumball, I've gone on a couple of Reddit posts and actually seen Gumball referenced on Reddit posts, right? Like Gumball doing something weird or outrageous or some quote from the show. That means clearly that, their audience is again 18 to 35. It's not kids. And I think, oh Lord, the mistake here is that your kids could basically watch this show and be, well, okay, your kids could watch this show and end up with a bunch of content that you don't want in their minds.
Correct. And, there are so many little things throughout the show that are red flags. Just a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The Robinsons, for example, yelling at a police officer and then attacking the police officer only to get tased in the street.
You know what really bothered me the most, to be honest with you?
Is the police officer shaped like a donut?
Yeah, the police officer is like shaped like a donut, right? Like
he is. It looks like a donut. It's like a donut with a hat.
He's a donut.
He's a donut with a. He's a donut with a hat.
Yeah. What I don't like is at the end is they all own up to being responsible for the destruction of Mr. Robinson's car.
Right.
But they don't put in. So at that point, I was still under the impression that this might be a kid show. It's like, well, what are the consequences of everybody? The entire family has ruined this man's life, and they're all like, it was my fault. It was my fault too. Kind of like that term that drives me nuts. My bad, right? My bad. It is what it is. Poor old Mr. Robinson's car is blown up. Thing is I would say same thing with Dennis the Menace. Same thing happened on Dennis the Menace. Gets so crazy, out of control to the point where Mr. Wilson is going nuts. And then in the end, too, it makes it look like Mr. Robinson's the bad guy or Mr. Wilson's the bad guy because he's actually destroying their property now.
Correct.
Right? There's all sorts of. It's who's on first, right? There's play, interplay. It's the comedy push for the 10 minutes that you get. It's like Red Bull. Right? If you just wanted a quick laugh, here you go. Have this pill, and you're going to be feeling good and laughy and funny at the end of the day. Not my gig, but I can see where a lot of people go, oh man, I love that cartoon. Right?
Yeah, it's a frantic pace.
Yep.
From start to finish. It is extremes. It is emotions all over the place. It's a lot of yelling.
Oh, and it picks on nostalgia. Like, we're totally getting, like, their references within it that you're like, oh, yeah, I get that too, right? Like, it's very, very smart.
Yeah. And, I mean, the interesting thing is the apologizing at the end, being accountable for the actions. Yeah, you're right. It's probably a little disingenuous. I found that to be the one sort of pseudo-redeeming part of it, although it is a little forced. You are correct.
Well, no, but at the end of the episode, it's Mr. Robinson that's the bad guy. He's the bad guy, right? That's how the show ends. Like, he didn't do anything.
He does go away in the squad car, yes.
Yeah, and really, the family should have.
Probably.
Right? I mean, to be honest, let's really get to the brass tacks. Why are we talking like this? It's all crazy entertainment, not for your children. That's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Did you actually like it as an adult? Did you kind of like ha ha?
I think I'll return to what I said earlier. There are times as a parent that you chuckle at things, but can still sort of say, all right, that's not appropriate for my children to watch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, we haven't even talked about the shocking nipples.
Yes, right? Yes.
I don't even know how that came into the play in the episode, but
yeah, at the beginning of the episode, the father is a giant rabbit, and he has his shirt off, and he has these electrodes stuck to his nipples because he's trying to lose weight with this machine.
That's right. Oh Lord. I didn't like it. It's not my gig.
No, I didn't like it either.
Yeah.
It's again, anytime somebody throws in a reference to something that you do, The Big Lebowski as a movie is not a movie that I recommend.
Right.
It's sort of, for me, it's sort of a guilty pleasure film because it's got some very interesting sort of philosophical constructs to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, something that has a lot of crass and
Yeah.
inappropriate material.
Yeah, you don't actually own that movie, do you?
No comment. Anyway, I think I might have a digital copy that I got somehow.
I watch it at night when Laura's asleep. That's funny. No, the other reaction I had was like Phineas and Ferb, which I actually did like.
Yes.
Phineas and Ferb's got the same kind of vibe, but it's a little bit less and very clever. Again, one thing that I find a little bit too bad was that I love the interplay or the intermix of the mediums. People should do this more often. Basically, you got like sock puppets, you got like a donut, you got like some food in there. I love that. It's fun. I love it when it's just outrageous and creative like that. So.
Well, and the interplay between Gumball and Darwin is cute.
Yeah, it is cute.
And the sort of ongoing gag of their ability to complete all these chores for Mr. Robinson in a moment. It's sort of like it's almost like they suggest that it is fueled by sort of this youthful energy and enthusiasm that they can magically do all this stuff instantly and stay one step ahead of Mr. Robinson.
Right.
And still sort of smile at him with this sort of innocent, impish grin, and maintain this facade that they are, just good little kids from next door who are just trying to have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you sort of left it at that, if that was sort of the premise, then you would be kind of okay.
I think you'd end up with Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, you would. Where we can debate back and forth whether it's okay for like the kids to sort of get over on the clueless adults or kids to get over on the angry adults that are next door. That's a whole other discussion. But if you sort of left it at that, when you add in it does take it to a whole new level of energy over Phineas and Ferb. You add in the behavior of the parents, you add in the violence with the police, and yeah, there's all those sort of elements that, again, the mistake here is to go, well, you can really do anything in a cartoon. If it's in a cartoon, then even if it's people attacking a cop and getting tased, then it's okay because it's animated. That's the mistake. And again, we've said this before, just because it's on the Cartoon Network and just because the rating is Y7 does not mean that it is appropriate.
Are you serious? At Y7?
Yeah.
Is it really Y7?
I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw a Y7
Wow.
at the beginning of it.
Yeesh. Okay. Yeah, that's, again, the... I don't know, maybe at some point we should come up with our own rating system.
Maybe.
Maybe. All right, well, you can follow us on